Hello and welcome back to my podcast. Merry Christmas! No, I'm kidding. It's only October. But we are working on the home, home for Christmas card making workshop. And this is it. You get all the stuff you need in it. So let's pull our stuff out. So there's our card bases. We have some little blingies. We have the stamp and thin cut set, which is adorable. We have our paper. And we have the instructions. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 4 cards of these 4 designs. And let's just jump right in. So the first thing it tells us we need is this workshop kit. Got it. We need Candy Apple exclusive inks, stamp set, stamp pad, the Pine stamp pad, the Intense Black stamp pad, the Bright and Vivid colored pencils, which are our new colored pencils. They're amazing, by the way. They're not watercolor, but you can make them watercolor by using a water brush. The Christmas Red Stickles Glitter Glue, which I have, some 3D foam tape, the die cutting and embossing machine, which I want to just take a second. If you don't have the Close to My Heart die cutting and embossing machine, which we'll get out and you'll see it, holy cow, it is the best. I had 2 other die cutting and embossing machines and I don't even use those. I gave one away, if I'm being honest, and the other one is in my cupboard over here behind me. I only use the Close to My Heart one now because you don't have to shim your papers. It's got a tension setting, so if you needed a little more pressure on there, you can just do that. It's got different settings for die cuts and different settings for embossing. So it's just my new favorite go-to machine. I'll show you that when we get to that part. Then we need our blocks, a 2x2, a 1x6.5, a 3x3, and a 2x3.5. Paper trimmer, some scissors, adhesive, and a ruler. So we've got all that stuff. Let's get started. So the first instructions, and I pull my my maker down. I don't know if you can see it. I use that as a platform for putting stuff on after I cut it. So the first thing it tells us to do is cut these zip strips. So I'm going to move the cardstock portion over here out of the way. And I cut off all of the zip strips right at one time. So that way my pieces of paper are ready to go when we get to cutting those. Oh, so we only have 2 pieces of printed paper, so easy peasy. So these papers, you have the green on one side and the Christmas pattern, it's kind of a plaid on the other. So it tells us, it tells us to cut our zip strips. The first one, we're going to cut it in, so they're already 1/2 inch. We're going to go a 1.5 inch strip 4 times. Okay. I'm so thankful that you came back to watch this. These are fun. I hope you're making it with me. If not, you can always get your kit and then come back and watch this when you have it, and we can then kind of make it together then. And I will put links to this in the description below. And then, so we have our 4, and it says on here, I'll show you, that it is part P3. So on the back of these, I'm just going to write P3. So then I know when I'm going to put my cards together what these are. And then I put all my 3s in one spot, all my 2s in one spot, and so on. And then this one is 4D, and it's 3.5 inches. And so I'm going to write 4D on the back of this, and I just use my pencil. I have been known to write them on the wrong side, so I can then erase it. And then this is also 4D. We're going to cut 3 more at 3.5 inches. And then I just set all the extra pieces off to the side because you can use those later on other projects. So 4D. Okay. Then the next thing it tells us is to take one of our pattern papers. Now it shows you that this is the way you're going to front and back. So this is going to be the upside when you're cutting, and the green is going to be the back side. Okay. So always pay attention to that. And if there was like lines going a certain way, you want to pay attention to how those lines are going so that you're putting your paper in and cutting that the right direction as well. So first off, we're going to cut a 3.5 by 3.5 piece. I need to open my bar here. And so I'm just going to cut the whole strip at 3.5 by 3.5. And that is 1A. So that's card 1. I'm putting that up there. And then it shows from this piece I cut 3.5, and it shows you where to cut right there. Then off of there, I'm going to cut 4 strips at 3.25 by 8.5. So this should already be 8.5. And it is, so then I need 4 of them at 3/4. Seems so weird to be getting such a jump on Christmas for me. I'm never this far ahead, but it's a good thing. Okay, so there's our 4 of them at 3.25, and those are all 4A. So you can't really see my pencil, so I'm just writing it in the lighter portions. It's hard for me to see, so I doubt that you can see it on there through the camera, but I wrote it right there. So those go with my 4s. And then the next one is we're going to do another strip all the way down at 3.5. And then we're going to cut 3 of them at another 3.5 this way, so they're square. 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm not going to be able to see these, but they're 1As. I believe I put my 1A up here. Yep, that's a 1A. So my 1s go up there. Okay. Then on the next strip, we're going to go 2.25 by 5.25. So I'm going to cut this all the way down at 2.25, just like the diagram shows. And then 2 of them at 5.25. Again, it's on the dark green side. I'm not, well, this is a little bit bigger, so I can put my 2A right in this. the lighter part. It is harder to see on the dark. But this is why I put them in piles for each card. And then on our last piece, we need another one at 2 1/4 wide. And 2 more at 5 1/4. And these are also 2A. You could use a pen, it would show up more, but if you accidentally write it on the wrong side, you can't get rid of the pen. Okay, so now we go to the next piece of paper. It's the same thing with the plaid side up. Yeah, you can see these. Try and move this so you can see it better. So this one, we're going to cut straight down here. The scissors always show you where your first cut is going to be. And we're going to go 2 by 3. So I'm going to go 2 inches wide. And then we're going to have 4 of them at 3 inches long. And these are 2D. And I'm not going to write it because it's too dark to see it, but I know it goes in my 2 pile. The next cut is going to be 4 1/4, and I know the 4 1/4 is where I'm going to cut my width because I can see in the diagram that that's where it is. And then 4 of them at 2 inches. And really the cutting of the pieces takes the longest of making any of these kits, but it's okay. We're here to have fun, right? So these are all 3C, so that'll go in my 3 pile. And then for the 3D, we're gonna go 3 3/4. Make sure I have this the right way. I don't. See, my 4 1/4 was this way. So we're going to change this now to 3 3/4. Ooh, don't do that. And then we're going to cut 4 strips at 3/4. 1, 2, and I know my thing is upside down. I get comments on that all the time, but I'm a left-handed person, so that's the way it has to be for me. And so these are 3D. Now the extra piece here, it shows me to cut this at 2 1/4 by 1 1/4, and now we're going to be getting the thin cuts out. So we're going to do all the cuts first because there's going to be a lot of thin cuts, but we're going to go ahead and cut this at 2 1/4. And I'm going to set this aside so I know to come back, and that's my thin cut piece. And we're going to do all the thin cuts at one time. I am not going to, I'm not going to cut these into little strips. And it says to stack. So I'm going to cut 4. And it says to stack them. So then you only have to thin cut them. Well, you know, we'll do that. We will go ahead and cut them so that you can see what I'm talking about. So it's 2 1/4 by 1 1/4. So these are the ones we were going to come back to, and they are P4s, but we will come back to these. I'm going to set them off to the side once we have all of our thin cut pieces done. So now we're going to the pine cardstock that came in our kit. And you see the light and the dark side? They are cutting on the dark side. So I want to have my dark side up, and it says tip. See the getting started section on page 2 for additional information and how to make 2 die cuts at once. We will go over that when we get the die cutting machine out. So this one is going to be 3.5 by 5 1/4. So we go 3.5. And we're going to, it says cut 4, so we're going to cut this one and this one at 5 1/4. And then we're going to cut them diagonal. So how I do that is I just line them up on here so where my tips are in the groove of my cutter. So there's diagonals, and these are 3A. So I'm going to cut this one, and then I will label the back. Because my pencil will show up on these. And then that little piece that was left at the bottom, we already have it at 3.5. Now we're going to cut it at 1 1/4. And that is 1B. Now we're going to cut, excuse me, 4 1/4 inch by 8.5 inch. So I know 4 quarters equal 1, so I'm going to cut this at 1 inches wide. Then I'm going to cut it at the 8.5, which is the length we want. I got to move it over so my thing is flat. Then I'm going to come back and cut them into my 1/4 inch. So cut it into 2 halves. And then my quarters. These are too narrow to write on. I have very big, chunky writing, but they are 4C. So we have 2 of them there, and then we're going to have 2 more here. Okay, then next we go 3.5 by 1 1/4. So we're going 3.5 wide. And 3 of them at 1 1/4. And these are 1B. I can write on the back of these. Now These are going to be for our thin cuts. So it's 3.5, which we're already 3.5 by 1.5. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to stack those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these at 1.5. Let's see, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are going to be P3s. I'm moving them over to the side because these are going to be thin cuts. And then the next strip is 4, which we should already be at 4. And we are by 1 1/4. And we're going to need 4 of those. And these also say stack, so we're going to be cutting multiple of them at a time. Now don't just lump them all in a pile because you're going to be cutting different things out of each one. So you want to kind of keep them all together so that we can come back and see what they are. So now we go to the candy apple cardstock. Again, light side and dark side. So we're on the dark side. We're going to do that same diagonal cut. Can you see these? Yeah. 3.5 by 5 1/4. 3.5. Just checking it's 5 1/4, and it is. And we're going to cut these diagonally as well. And these are 3B. Find my pencil. And I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure because I don't want the pencil to, you know, how the divot goes through the other side. We don't want that. And then on that little piece on the bottom that I just had here, oh, there it is. So then down here, we're going to have a 3.5 by a 3/4 and a 3/4. So we're going to have 2 of those. And they should be equal. And those are 4B. Okay. And then we're going to cut a 1 inch by 5 1/4. We're going to cut 4 of those. So I'm going to just cut this at 2 because I know I'm going to need. And then cut it down to the 1. You don't have to do it this way. There's no rhyme or reason to why I just did that. And these are all 4 5 1/4. And these are 2C. Put those up there with my 2s. And then lastly, for the candy apple, we have 2 strips that are 3/4 inches wide by 3.5. So I'm just going to go 3/4. And then 2 of them at 3.5. There's no thin cuts out of the candy apple, and these are 4B. Okay, now we go to black. So the black does not have a dark or a light side. That's just black. So the black and the white daisy, and I believe even the French vanilla, they don't have a light and the dark. So it's just what it is. So for the black, we're going to go 2.5. And then 4 of them at 3. If you didn't know, this is our white core black. We also have solid core black. But this one that came in the kit is the white core. 3. And my pencil is just not going to show up on this, so it's 3E. So I'll put this in my pile of 3. We're going to do that 4 of them at 1 inch. So, I mean, I'll just do it this way this time. Go 1 inch. And 1 inch. And then 5.5. I keep moving this because I don't know if you can see over here, but the base to my camera mount is over here, and this return is up on that. And if it's not flat, you're not going to get the perfect measurement that you want. So when I have to come over here onto that arm, I move it off. And then this one. Excuse me. And these are 4E. So let's go in my 4 pile. And then really tiny here, we're going to cut 4 of them at 1/2 inch by 5.25. So if they're 1/2 inch, I'm going to just cut it at the 1. And then cut it in half. So I get my 1/2 inch. And then both of these get cut at 5.5 and 5.5. When we start assembling the cards, I am not going to make you watch me assemble all 4 of each design. We will assemble 1 of each one for the sake of time. I want to be respectful of your time. And you know what? I think I cut those at 4.5 instead of 4.25, and they're supposed to be 4.25. So let's see, did I do that? I did. So, okay, see? Not paying attention. A good thing I cut them too long instead of too short. So 5.25. And then I will come back and cut 1/4 inch off of these, making them also 5.25 instead of 5.5. Okay. I always make some mistake. And these are 2B. And then we got some small cuts over here. For 1C, we're going to have 4 of them cut at 1 1/4 by 3 1/2. So I'm going to cut this strip here at 1 1/4, or I'm sorry, 1/4, not 1 1/4. And then I'm going to cut another one at 1/4. And then 3 1/2. And we need 4, so that's what this other strip here is for. And these are 1C. And then lastly, we have our French vanilla. So we have 2 pieces of French vanilla here. So yeah, see, French vanilla, there's not a light or a dark side. So we're gonna go 3 by 3. While I'm cutting this, anybody going to the Scrapbook Expo that's over by Sacramento on the 13th? I will be there. So if you go, find me, say hi. I would love to meet you and say hi. These are 1D. And then we have 1 3/4 by 2 3/4. I haven't been to a Scrapbook Expo since pre-COVID, so it's been a minute, so I'm excited to go. I'm going with one of my good friends. And then we're cutting 4 of these at 2 3/4. In fact, actually, if Sarah, you know who you are, if you happen to be watching this, the last Scrapbook Expo I went to, I ran into one of my downline at the time, Sarah, and so that was fun. 2E. And I'm sure it's the same way in other towns, but Reno, which is the town I'm closest to E. Everybody in the scrapbook world pretty much knows everybody. And if you haven't met them, you know their name and you know of them. So it's fun when you get to go places like that and run into people and meet them. I just love that. I think it's fun. So 3 1/4, I'm sorry, 3/4. We're going to cut 2 of these strips. By 5. And we need 4 of these. And these are 4F. And then we're going to go 2 by 2.5, and it looks like they did the 2 as our width. And we're going to do 4 of them at 2.5. And these are, I don't know why I flipped that over, 3F, 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 and 3F. So now the next strip we're going to cut is for our thin cuts. And they don't say to stack this one, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it was just an oversight, but we're going to do it. So we're going to have this at 3 by 5. But it doesn't make sense because we don't have 5 here. And we can't do... So I don't think it's 3 by 5. So I'm going to just leave this as it is. And okay, I see what they did. They cut this at 3. And then they cut this at 5. And they cut this one at 5. So there's our 3 by 5. And then what they did is you're going to stack it, and you're going to put the thin cut here and cut 2, and then you're going to put the thin cut here and cut 2. So that's, well, it's going to go this way actually, but either way, that's what those are for. So these go in our thin cut pile. We do have another set of French vanilla over here. So let's see if what we got to cut over here on this last one. Oh, this is going to be all for thin cuts. So this last piece of French vanilla, we're going 3 wide. So same thing that they did before. Oh. And then 6. And I know that that's what they're doing because instead of a cut line, there's a little perforation line, and so we're not folding it or anything. We're just going to cut multiple at a time on each one. And then this one is, we're going to cut 2 at 1 1/4 by 6. Oh, that's not a 6, that's a 4. I almost screwed up again, guys. Because I was saying we're going to cut 4. That's what I was doing. So we have this one. And then we're going to cut 2. Oh, I didn't do this one yet. So 1 1/4. Forgot to cut 2. This one is a little bit different. So I am not going to cut this one in half. And I'm going to do the same thing over here where it says to cut 2 at 1 1/2 by 8. I'm going to just cut 2 of them at 1 1/2, and I'm not going to cut them in half. And it's just how we get them to fit on there, so it will all be fine. And if I happen to be wrong, we have extra. Okay. So now I'm going to grab my thin cut and embossing stuff. Now, close to my heart does have a magnetic mat, and I have it, and it's fabulous. And I've loved it so much, and I've used it so much, I've warped it. So I'm going to use this mat today. So it's not a magnetic mat, but we do have it, and it's great. And mine's all warped and ugly, and you don't want to see it. So, but here's our thin cut and embossing machine. I'm going to try and tip it so you can see. Here's the dial where you can twist. You know, you can set it for die cuts, letterpress, 2D emboss, or 3D emboss. And then this is where you can add your pressure to give it more or less pressure if you need to adjust. And then it won't work on my desktop because it's got ridges and texture. But when you open this up, there's suctions on the bottom, and it kind of does, but not a whole lot. It suctions in place, so you don't have to like put a whole bunch of pressure here to hold it. So that's always really cool. Okay, so we're gonna go back here. We're gonna back up. Remember to our first, we did on the red. So let me grab my red piece. I stacked these upside down. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, so now it tells us to, we can cut 2 at a time. So because these are little, I'm just gonna stick this in here so it doesn't tip over. And I'm going to put 2 down. I've got 2 here. And then I've got 2 here. And the magnet, you know, I might grab that. We'll see if this is how this works. Oh, I can't do this one this way. So I've got 1 in there, not 2. Grab our thin cuts. And it's showing me the thin cuts we're going to cut with this. So it's showing make sure I'm getting the right one here. So it looks like this double leaf one and this single leaf. But is it the right single leaf? I think it is. So if you're not familiar with our thin cuts, I'll grab the bigger one. There's a flat side and then the rigid side. The rigid side is the one you want onto your paper because that's what's going to do the cutting. So I'm going to just set those on my paper. Now remember, I have 2 pieces of paper there, so you want to keep them lined up. And then I'm going to put the platform on top of it. I'm not going to slide it because I don't want to move those on there. And when you can feel it where it cuts. And then I just back up over. I really don't think you have to back up over it. It's just habit for me from my older machines. That's what I had to do. So now you'll see it cut both of them for me. If I can get them to separate. So there are my leaves. I'm going to probably go off camera where you can't see me for a second and pop these out. They're very dainty and I don't want to tear them. So there's the first one. And there's, I got both of them on that one. And so then I have one left in here. So sometimes they get stuck in there and that's fine. I just take my Cricut tool and pop them out. Just in those little holes. So there's our little leaves. And these say they're, the big leaves are P4. So I'm going to put those with card 4 and the little leaves or I don't even know what those are with card 3, P3. And so get rid of that, and we're going to just do it again because we need 4 of each one. So you can do these individually, absolutely, but why? Why double your work? I don't want to drop these, and it's hard to maneuver. So one of them stuck in there, probably both. Or this one has, nope, it's not, but they're in here. So I'm just gently, because I don't want to rip any of these little pieces of it. And it did cut them. Just bear with me while I try and gently get them out of here. I'm going to pop out the little one because I don't want to tear it either. And then we said the little one was in 3. And then I'm going to just, I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to just use my my Cricut tool here and try to pop these out because it's a snug little fit and I don't want to tear them. I think I'm going to end up tearing it. I don't want to. There we go. So what I did is I ended up ripping it off, but I didn't rip off my little things. I'm just trying to get them separated. And then I will pluck out the piece that's stuck in there. And look, I ripped it. This is exactly what I was trying not to do. And I did it anyway. So for the sake of time, I'm going to just put those there. And I will fix those. Because see, this one still has pieces stuck in there. And I will do that, and we will not use this one for one of the cards we're going to make on camera, and I will get it out later. But it did cut it all the way through. So I don't want to lose these. I'm going to put them back on my magnetic carrier sheet, and we will go to the next one. So this is our pine cardstock pieces. Now we had a couple of these. So the shorter one we can see is for this one. We're going to stack those as well and do exactly what we just did. And we're going to be cutting some of the same ones we just did and some other ones, or another one. So I'm going to put that there. And it's this one. And this one, and this one. So again, I've got 2 pieces of cardstock there. So we're going to be cutting 2 of each one at the same time. This one, I do see I've got some paper stuck in there. I don't know that it matters if it stays in there, but I take them out just in case, because I want to make sure I get that clean cut on this. Cardstock's a little thicker. Oh, you guys are gonna hear all kinds of noise. My husband just got home. My dogs are gonna go crazy. Can you hear them? Oh, goodness. This is awkward, this direction. So I don't want to rip any of these ones. Okay, this one looks like I might have needed to shim it a little. Well, not shim it, but do that tension because the cardstock's a little thicker. It didn't cut all the way through on the back piece. So I will do that again, but we do have these ones that came out. So I'm going to set these down so I don't lose them. I'm going to increase this pressure a little bit. And it tells you looser or tighter. And then, like I said a minute ago, we're only making one of each card on camera, so I will cut additional of these off camera and make sure I have enough to complete my 4. So now it's going to be a little tighter when I run it through here. And these are such detailed thin cuts that I'm really not surprised that I have to shim it a little. And just because I want to make sure I'm doing it twice. Mm-hmm. This one's kind of stuck and kind of coming out. So I'm going to get my poker and I'm going to release it from the die. So yeah, these ones cut all the way through, but the little pieces get tangled up on each other. So I'm taking it over here. I'm not trying to not share with you. I just don't want to rip them like I did last time. So there's one. And I have nails, which makes this harder. Sorry, I'm just concentrating on trying to get these out. And it's just the little pieces, the little branches of these are all intertangled up with each other. So bear with me while I work with these. I'm gonna grab my tweezers and see if I can pull them. fun things that we do. I did tear that one. That's okay. I'm good with that. So there's 2. So what do we have here? So there is all 3 that we need for this card, and this is a P3, and I will mess and fiddle with these after. Oh, and there's another one in here. And I just dropped it on the floor. So that's typical for me. Okay, so these ones we're done with. Put them back on the carrier sheet. And then we're going to go to the long ones. And that's going to be the branch. This one will be a lot easier. I'm going to tighten this up just a little bit more, so maybe it'll be easier to get them out. So I've got 2 pieces of cardstock here. I'm going to put that branch on there. Some people tape them. You can. I just never have been one to take the time to do that. This one should be a lot easier. Yep, totally is. There's no big detail pieces here, so both of them just popped right out. There is 2 here if I can get them separated. There you go. There's both of those. And these are P1s. And then we have 2 more. Just make sure you keep them on the, you're on the correct side, the light side or the dark side of that cardstock. Otherwise your branches will be backwards. Our cardstock is so matchy-matchy that it wouldn't hurt anything. It just, if you're staying with the instructions, it wouldn't match. And there's both of those. Look at the detail. Love it. Put that one back. Now we didn't have any in the candy apple. Didn't have any in the black, but on our French vanilla. So it was this piece, the 3x5 piece. Remember, we're going to do some in the middle. We have a big stocking. And I don't know. I want to see which big stocking, because there's 3 stockings on here. So it looks like it's the medium one and the small one. And we're going to cut 4 of those. But again, we have 2 pieces. So we're actually going to end up with a lot of these. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to have, never mind me. So there's one of them. These ones just pop out really easy. And these are P2s. So I'm going to put them up here with number 2. And then we're going to stack these again and cut 2 more. I know we're using these again, so I'm going to just go ahead and keep them out. So there's one, that one, and the other one. And these are still part of P2, so put those up there with P2. Oh, the other fun thing about this embossing and die cutting machine is it has storage on each side. So then we go to this sheet, and remember we cut some at 1.5, and we cut some at, where's my other 1.5? Well, we're going to start left to right anyway, so I don't know why I'm doing that. So the 3x6s, we're cutting some more of these 2. So that one and this one, our cardstock is not lined up. Cutting 2 of these at a time. Now on this one, the larger stocking is a P1, and the little one, I can't get it off, is a P3. So put these with number 1, and these 2 with number 3. Gotta cut another set of them. My nails sometimes hinder me. Okay, this was, remember, for number 1, I got both of them here. And this one goes to 3. Got both of those. Now we're gonna have this strip here, and we're going to do the bigger stocking. Again, we're stacking them up, so we're cutting 2 at a time. And my thin cut stuck to the bottom of my mat here. So we got 2, and these say they are P4. So those go with 4. And these are so much easier to use than having to make those sandwiches with A plates, B plates, C plates, D plates. That form just is easy to use. I got both of those, and these are also go to number 4. Okay, done with stockings. Now, I don't think I cut enough, but I do need four of the branch. You can feel when it's at the end of it. You can feel it when you're twisting. And these are P2. Just going to separate them because I do have both here. I didn't show you, but there's both of them. And then we need 2 more. This one's decided to stay in. That's what these little holes are for. It's perfect for getting little things out. Okay, now, not done yet. We're done cutting. So these also go to P2. I don't want to show you. So I'm going to move my die cutting machine out of the way. I will come back and cut those other ones that I screwed up. But on our instructions here, it shows some images that we do not have a thin cut for. So they are going to be on the stamp set here. So we're going to stamp 4 bows that are right here, and then 4 of the A Gift for You on these other, like the bottom of here, and then this other strip that I have somewhere, right there. So when we get to the stamping, we will stamp those. So I'm not gonna toss these yet, but that's it. That's our cuts, and wasn't too hard. Didn't take too long, I don't think. So let's get to assembling the cards.